Alexandra Eala responds when asked if she should have been put on a bigger court at the Australian Open. Alexandra Eala saw her dream start at the Australian Open swiftly devolve into a nightmare, as she suffered a first-round exit at the hands of Alicia Parks. Having raced into a 6-0 lead, it seemed like the Filipino would be cruising into the second round with minimal fuss. However, as her opponent sharpened her shots and cut out the unforced errors, Alexandra Eala seemed to falter. Her attempt to out-hit Parks proved to be an unsuccessful tactic, and the dream of a first main draw win in Melbourne evaporated. Alexandra Eala speaks about the crowds at the Australian Open. And yet, despite the crushing nature of this loss, Eala cut an upbeat figure in her post-match press conference. Admittedly, given the remarkable support she received from those inside and the many more who queued outside her stadium, it must have been difficult to stay sad for too long. Speaking about the huge backlog of people clamoring to catch a glimpse of her, the 20-year-old was asked about whether the Australian Open made a mistake by not scheduling her in a larger arena. However, she danced around the question by thanking those in attendance. "Yeah, it was so heartwarming. That's one of the things that makes a loss like today a little bit harder, is I know a lot of people were rooting for me. But then again, Alicia played really well. And I just hope that the support continues with the losses along with the wins. I think that would really touch me. But then again, the fact that everyone came out and really squeezed into that cozy court, I really appreciate it. I felt so loved. Even when I was 5-2 down in the third, still felt the love. So I'm really appreciative and super thankful, yeah." Then asked whether a big crowd increases pressure, Eala added, "Yeah, it's a process to take it all in. I think this week definitely there were elements that were a bit overwhelming, especially during my practices. I didn't expect that many people to be there. So it's a learning process, like anything. Losses is part of the learning process. The trainings are part of a learning process. So I'm just trying to take it in. I'm still young, 20, so learning how to deal with all of this attention, but then at the same time being grateful, yeah." Alexandra Eala is easily one of the WTA's most popular players. Eala has spoken about her impact on tennis in the Philippines at length, but to see how her support translates all over the world speaks volumes for her global popularity. After all, there were hundreds lined up outside the Australian Open's Court 6, desperate to see this prodigious young talent. It might seem strange that a player from a country that has had very little prior association with tennis is so enamored with the sport, but that newfound popularity has to be attributed to Eala. Last year, she broke seemingly every Filipino tennis record, simply by featuring in Grand Slam tournaments or reaching WTA event finals. It will be intriguing to see how she continues to progress in 2026, hopefully expanding the sport too, given her undeniable popularity. Court of Dreams, Alexandra Eala on bigger stadiums and bigger chances. When the microphone pressed forward, flashing lights pulsed like heartbeat echoes, and a reporter asked the question, "Do you think you should have been put on a bigger court?" Alexandra Eala didn't flinch. Her gaze stayed cool, eyes steady beneath the brim of her cap, her mind somewhere between the baseline and the horizon. It was a moment that asked more than yes or no. It asked for truth, belief, and vision. To many, the question itself seemed simple: was she worthy of a bigger stage? But for Alexandra, the answer was never about the size of the stadium. It was about the size of the moment, the space where grit meets grace, where passion meets performance. The court is just a stage. Alexandra's first words were calm, deliberate. She didn't speak in frustration, nor with regret. The court doesn't make my game bigger, I do. For her, a tennis court, whether the intimidating embrace of a Grand Slam arena or the crisp intimacy of an outside court, was simply a stage. The lines might be wider, the stands larger, the lights brighter on bigger courts, but the essence of tennis remained unchanged. A battle of wit, strength, and heart. In her mind, every stroke she hit on a smaller court carried the same truth as the ones broadcast under the biggest spotlights. The game does not change with the size of the seeding chart. The challenge remains, and so does the opportunity. 2. Expectations, a heavy backpack or a source of fuel. When people ask if she deserved a bigger court, what they're really asking is whether she belongs among the sport's elite. Alexandra paused over this. Wouldn't everyone want the grandest stage possible? She smiled, thoughtful. Sure, bigger courts feel like bigger opportunities, but I don't think of them as validation. To her, expectations could be a burden or a boost, depending on how you wore them. Instead of seeing a smaller court as a slight, she saw it as a chance to sharpen focus, refine rhythm, and assert confidence without the noise that comes with large arenas. A tennis racket in her hand and a ball perched on the baseline are the same, whether watched by 1,000 fans or a few dozen. The game is still the game, and the real battle is always within. 3. On being seen, and truly seen. Social media buzzed after the match. Opinions rippled. Should she have had more visibility? Why wasn't she on a show court? Alexandra looked at these reactions not with irritation, but with clarity. People want to see you on the biggest court. That tells me they already care. That's a gift. She knew that audiences crave narratives, champions emerging under the brightest lights, iconic battles etched into the collective memory of a sport. But Alexandra's journey was never about proving herself to others. It was about mastering her own presence, her own growth. When the question struck at her confidence, should you have been on a bigger court? She replied gently, I'm always ready for bigger stages, not because someone else decides it, but because I build myself up every day for that moment. It's one thing to be seen, quite another to be truly prepared for a different kind of big stage. There was a quiet lesson woven through her response, that greatness isn't guaranteed by the arena's size, but by the relentless refinement of craft. She could have said, yes, I deserved it. She could have added, I'll get it next time. Instead, she said something more profound. Every court is a chance to become better. In that sentence lay maturity beyond years, a reminder that big opportunities aren't handed out like trophies, they're earned in thousands of unseen hours, in moments of doubt conquered by persistence. This wasn't a defensive answer. It was a declaration of self-awareness. 5. The bigger court is in the mind. To Alexandra, the bigger court wasn't measured in meters or rows of seats. It was a metaphor, a mental ground where self-belief, discipline, and joy converge. She spoke about how every match, regardless of court size, demanded the same essentials. Presence, staying rooted in the present point. Composure, not letting the occasion outweigh the process. Curiosity, treating each rally as a lesson, not just a pursuit of victory. Respect, for her opponent, the sport, and herself.